Alrighty, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 20th. Welcome to the Middlesex Select Board meeting. So our first item is to call the meeting to order and welcome our guests. And so if you have never been to a Select Board meeting, I don't know that I've ever met you. But if you don't have to give your name unless you're speaking. So if you want to talk, you just address the chair and just raise your hand. And if for some reason I'm not seeing it, one of these guys will be like, hey, Liz, that person wants to stay. And then you just state your name and your residence, your town of residence, and then you're good for the minutes. And we may ask some clarifying questions like how to spell it because your name gets in the minutes if you talk. Okay, so is there a motion to, so I don't think we actually have the minutes from the special 16 meeting, the 16th. I think we don't.
Was that the one from Friday? I mean, I emailed them to you and Cheryl.
Anyone got a chance to review them or anything, so we can put it off till the next meeting. So, so for the first one is approving the minutes for January 13th, regular select board meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Paul moves. Is there a second? Larry seconds. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will pass over the July 16th special select board meeting where we made the budget adjustment until our next meeting. And now we just need to approve the agenda for today's meeting and consider any amendments to the agenda. Are there amendments to the agenda?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve today's minutes for January 20th? Not minutes, agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Larry moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Paul seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. So we are now at 5:05 with the highway report and FEMA roadwork update from Rick Mativier. Take it away.
So, equipment is all in good shape right now. I met with Fitzgerald Environmental, they're the engineering firm. I met with them on Lower Sunnybrook Road and Norton Road. They're moving forward on those. They're sending someone out within the next couple of weeks to do core samples on Old Brook Road. So that'll be underway as well. And that's about really all the changes other than the normal plowing.
Just for traffic sake, will there be any issues with travel? I don't know how wide their drill rig, their core rig is or anything.
He didn't say anything like that. I'm sure they're gonna let me know when they come out exactly.
Okay. Zara, regarding, I'm slightly unclear. I don't know if you have an answer to this. Will we submit like the costs of Fitzgerald Environmental's work, like with our, like what we think it's gonna cost to repair these roads? How does that work?
So, you mind if I answer this?
No, please do.
So with the work that needs to be done to these, there's A&E costs or engineering costs. So those engineering costs will be paid for by FEMA. Those are submitted as the A&E is part of its own project.
Okay.
And once the design is done, they make another project for that.
Okay.
Which will be priced down.
Okay.
So more loans, more to come. Hopefully we'll get paid back before we start new ones, but yeah, we're gonna have more projects and more money put onto 4810 when we do those 5 more projects. 4 really.
Is Fitzgerald only 4810?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no.
No,
because Lower Sunnybrook Road is not 40 and Norton Road is not 4810.
Okay. What about Daniel's Farm? That's 4810?
Yep.
Okay.
Also part of it.
Okay. All right, and you feel supported in this process of working?
Yeah, they're very
okay, good. Nice. And plowing and sanding and salting is going well?
Yeah. Might be other than a couple issues this week, we might be pretty quiet for about a week.
Oh, right.
Snow coming
And
in.
then it's getting really cold. I'm worried about that, but it's like dangerously cold.
This is good traffic.
Yeah. Okay, then you're working on replacing missing signs throughout the
Yeah,
town.
that's as time allows.
Is someone stealing them?
No, I think it's just over the years.
Oh, okay,
They haven't been done in quite some time.
okay.
I mean, yes, somebody was stealing, like we had a dozen signs,
Yeah.
but they're not continuing to steal them, right? No more are missing, right?
Correct. I haven't found any more ones, and these were ones that have just been written down and
Okay.
noticed over the last couple of years.
Are there any questions for Eric and his bi-weekly highway report? Okay, thank you, Eric. And Zara, you sent us a little something about FEMA.
Yep, we just had a little bit of work to wrap up. I sent out the extension letters for 2024 4810 for 5 roads that we're gonna need, next summer to complete. So like what the engineer is looking at right now. I sent the extension letters because our performance is gonna be over before spring. So we can't do any work right now.
Any new money coming in?
No movement on money. Our reps kind of come back, I think, next week or later this week. Isabella and Andrew were both on vacation when I sent them messages today.
Okay,
And then the other paperwork that I'm completing is the project completion reports, which just tell them this roads were 100% completed so that the state can pay that final 10% that they've been holding back on some of our roads.
okay, gotcha. Okay, any questions for Zara on FEMA payments? And we got your update on Fitzgerald Engineering. And also, I think you mentioned it someone did, you did at the end of our special meeting, but if you guys just want to give a quick update about the that you measured the wetland area.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Eric and I swung out there. I don't remember what day it was. We, per one of the directives, by Shannon Morse was to get a measurement of the impacted wetland area. So Eric and I went out and measured. We used the delineated line that Shannon identified. And we actually even overcompensated a little bit for all the small nuances in the impact area. We ended up being about 800 square feet. So, yeah, 800 square feet. And we also just for
And we were very generous.
we're really generous. It's probably more between 400 and 500, but we just figured so it was in there. And then additionally, we measured the general work area that was upstream or north of the wetland area, and I think that area turned out to be 4,700, or was that total?
That was, no,
No, that was okay.
no,
Yeah.
it was 3,800
Yeah.
and it was 4,500 total.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw that you got those over to Shannon,
Yeah.
which is good.
Haven't heard back.
Yeah, and we may not. I mean, I think right now it's not super applicable until we can
Right.
kind of get in the spring, move on to next steps. So I could, that's
Okay.
right now, we're in good standings with everything we wanted, we need to do.
Okay, yeah, I think so too, and I think the only thing that I may need clarity on is when I have to make an appointment with her for, you said after May, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure what for, besides just reviewing the wetland.
Yeah, it's.
And making the plan.
Yeah, and that's really what it is, kind
Okay.
of bringing everything full circle, bringing her in with whatever
Okay.
constituents she needs to fill in the gaps
Yeah.
with, bring them up to speed. We're kind of, I'll be honest, I think it's gonna be more of a refresher and starting
Yeah, me
over
too.
again, just because it's such a time
Yeah.
lapse.
And we haven't had Dirt Tech doing any corrective work, it's just been too.
I mean, we were on the cusp.
Yeah, right.
Even when this first
Okay.
came to light.
All right, good, all right. Okay, so everything looks good there. Now we're a little early on time, but Brendan, you're here. We could do the fire department update since you're here. Are you expecting anyone else from the fire department besides
I'm good.
Okay, good.
Sure, yeah, of
It
course.
was great welcome and thank you for coming.
Of course. So our total calls this year, total calls period is 9. We had 2 mutual aids out, 0 mutual aids in. Our max member response was 9, our minimum was 1, which gave an average of 5. I would say that's probably actually a little higher though, because the call that we responded with 1 just got canceled pretty much immediately. So I don't really know if I counted it, but it's probably a little upwards of our average being like 7, which is pretty great. Engine 1 was out 7 times, engine 6 was out 0 times, tanker was out twice, rescue was out 5 times, truck 14 wasn't out at all, and we had 1 personal vehicle response. On 12/24, we responded to Shady Hill for a motor vehicle accident. 12/27, we had a mutual aid call at East Montpelier for a fully involved structure fire, but most units were canceled except for tankers. On I-89, we had a motor vehicle accident off the road, vehicle into a guardrail on 29th. We had 2 calls in the same night, and then we had 2 calls in the same night again the next day. Both cars hit the ledges and off the road on 89.
Come on, people, slow
We
down.
had some pretty icy days this year. On the 2nd, we had a car off the road with a head injury. And on the 9th, we responded to Wood Road for a propane order. And on the 10th, we responded to I-9 for a vehicle in the median. Fast Squad had 10 total calls for the period, 8 were just medical only. For training, we did air pack and search and rescue training, and we're planning on doing CPR recertification in February.
Great. And no repairs needed.
No repairs
That's
needed,
good.
no purchases.
No purchases, that's even better.
No notes, beginning of the year, not much has changed
Right,
yet.
okay, good, alrighty. Well, thank you for that update. Any questions for the fire department from anyone? No? Okay, I just need to grab my. Wow. All right, thank you for coming. Brendan? Yeah.
Usually the way you're a little.
Oh.
We can let you leave that.
Okay, so we're gonna hold off on the next agenda item, until at the earliest. Well, actually, really, if there's, are you guys from, that road,
South Bear?
South Bear Swamp?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and there may be more people coming. I know Mike's coming.
I thought they would be here by now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, he knows he's on at 5:45, so,
Could be. Yeah.
I would just move that, we
Yeah.
maybe move forward and we could work
yeah, we'll
on,
work on the other things.
yeah, the
Okay.
other things for now.
I will say that Larry wasn't, I don't think I told him he was on the agenda again. But I think things are moving well with the electrical wiring was done. Have you been measuring, by any chance?
It needed to like sit for 40 hours
Okay.
before we measured, but I did put the little can of whatever stuff that's in there today. And then it sits there for a week and then we mail it.
Gotcha, okay, and have you tried using the electronic thing that we have for radar?
Oh, just the handheld?
Yeah,
No.
you should just try it just to see, but that,
I mean, it is registering, I haven't recorded anything. I've
Yeah.
randomly checked it.
Yeah.
And it's, in my area, it's green, which is good.
oh, good, okay, good. So Albie came a couple, days ago and put the fan out so that the radon can be like blown out, and I think the bill was around 400.
41.
Yeah, so all told, it was a fairly inexpensive fix, which is great. I think that, the only, concern is that if we have to expand the vault, we're gonna have to do something with that tubing as well. But I mean, we're not extending the vault today, so.
And the electrical would already be set up, so.
Right, yeah, so that's good news. I feel like we accomplished something this year. At the 11th hour. Okay, and so let's go to the town warning next. So actually, you know what, Zara and Stacy, I should send you a copy of the warning so that you can see it. So just for your sake, Stacy and Larry and Paul, for that matter, who are new to this process. This is the warning that we will be going by at town meeting. And whoever is elected as moderator, assuming it's Susan Clark again, she will be directing this meeting and going by these articles. And so I had run this by our lawyer to make sure that it made sense in terms of the statutes that we have to acknowledge, and also talked with Susan about the placement of these things on the warning, because you know, discussions of the budget might affect something that's on the warning, and you want to make sure that you discuss the budget first before you discuss something on the warning that might be after the discussion of the budget. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to you.
Both emails, please.
Your regular Gmail?
Both.
Both, okay. And Stacy, can I send it to the middlesexvermont.org? Is she? Yeah, she's in.
I'm here. I just spilled my tea. We're
Okay.
good. But yes, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, I just sent it off. So this afternoon, Susan and Cheryl and I sat and just double checked everything to make sure that the terms are correct for Article 2 in particular, dates are correct, times are correct. And so when you guys get it, just let me know that you got it and are opening it to look at it.
Do you have a copy here for us, or
No.
is it just, did you send us a copy?
No, I did.
Why would you think that I would do that?
I got it. I'm reading.
Okay, let me send it to you guys too, but Larry. So if you bring yours up, Larry, I'll just share mine with Paul.
Okay,
Do you guys have it? Zara and Stacy? Okay,
did you send it to Middlesex? For me, or?
I sent it to Middlesex, yeah.
Everybody.
Okay, so the first article is just selecting a moderator. The second one are the terms that are voted on Australian ballot. So these two things only take a few minutes. And then Article 3 is to hear the town officers' reports. That language has changed a little bit from previous years per the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. But basically, that's an opportunity for when people in the town can say, hey, I was reading through the select board report and I'm wondering, you know, why you mentioned blah, 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 right? And then whoever wrote that report can get up and, oh, thanks for sharing that. Whoever wrote that report can, you know, respond to it. So depending, like last year, we spent a lot of time talking about the flood. I suspect there'll be some more conversation about the flood. So that's where that comes in. And then Article 4 is just about the dates for when tax bills are due. Article 5 is just about voting, that taxes payable in payable in installments will bear interest rate not to exceed 0.5% per month or fraction thereof from the due date of each installment. So if they're late, they get a charge. So that's a regular thing that's on our warning every year. The next thing is the floor vote for the budget. So that's at 5:15. So no matter where we are in the conversation, we stop, and Susan then begins the conversation at 5:15 about the budget. If it's like, 4:45 and, we've done everything, we probably are not, or it won't be 4:45, but it would probably be like closer to 5. We will hold off on doing anything and take a break until 5:15. So Article 7 and Article 8 are the ones that, that we put after the budget conversation, because in the budget conversation, one of the topics is going to be about a town administrator, right? And just the increase, and Mark, will speak to, the budget as chair, and just overall be able to answer some of those questions. And so as we all agreed in our meetings, our last 2 meetings, that we bundled the question about whether or not we can appoint the town clerk and authorize a non-resident appointment in the same question. So that's for both the town clerk and the treasurer. So I imagine there will be a bit of conversation about this for both of those articles. Next are then the money requests by petition. So those have been are down there for up until Article 17, which is the little bundled amounts that are $250 or fewer. And then that's the end of the meeting. So as a part of our duty, we are to approve this warning. And so first, are there any questions about this or concerns about the warning before we make a motion? Yes, Sarah.
The FIT committee had hoped to have some discussion about the future of the town garage during town meeting. I don't know if this.
Yeah, that doesn't really go on as a warning, but it would be probably under, did you put anything for the town officer reports?
I put a thing in for the road committee, but I don't know if Dave Magida, who's the chair of FIT.
We do have a FIT committee report.
You do, okay. Yeah, Larry?
We do have that report. I mean, you could add that. I think, Zara, we talked about just having like a booth, how they have booths on the way in, and to have some information. It's just general information, let them know what we're doing, maybe who's on the committee, what's happening right now, what the process is. Obviously, we're talking the future, not voting right now on this. So it's more of an informational side thing. But I mean, I'm not opposed to bringing it up in regular meeting. I don't want to.
And I think it would be here, like, so you can, if no one in the audience says, I have a question about this report, you could say, Susan, can I make a comment? I'd like to make a comment about the FIT report, and then just say something if you want to add something to that, or someone may ask about it, right?
Okay.
And that's your opportunity as an Article 3. Are there any other questions about this warning? Okay, so is there a motion to approve the warning? Let's see. To approve the warning for the March 3rd 2026 town meeting.
I would make that motion.
Okay, Paul has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And Larry has second. All those in favor of approving the warning for the annual town meeting of March 3rd, 2026, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Stacy, if it's not too much trouble and you could come in and sign this, I know, Zara, you're not gonna be able to sign it, but maybe we'll leave it out for her to sign, so it's not just 3 of us signing it.
I would like that.
Yeah, that would be handy.
I figured I'll stop by to sign it, and also the purchasing policy. It just, the stars were not in alignment to get myself to town hall today.
I know you get it back. Okay, great, yay. Okay, okay, we still have time. Oh, so we could talk about the purchasing policy now. Stacy, if you want to do that, we still have some time before the 5:45. I think that's enough time. You sent it out. I read through it. It's
Definitely.
really long.
It's super long. I'm gonna pull it up here and share my screen again, just for
Okay, I'm
the
gonna bring it up
reverse.
too.
Let's see, share screen 3.
Am I mistaken that it's somehow it changed a bit since the very beginning or not? Was it
There
always this
are-
long?
It's always been this long.
Okay.
There is two changes potentially. For the final approved version, I may have presupposed the adoptedness of it. But yeah, so it is painfully long, and we've trimmed out a bit of it, but it's basically three parts. The first part is, and I should say, like, all of the hard stuff is the same, like what we workshopped last summer.
Yeah.
So the municipality, like, there's different categories. One is when it's like purely municipal funds. Another is when it's like part state funds, part federal funds. And then
Yeah.
I actually think it's really just two categories of spending or procurement or purchasing. So the requirements for the municipality track what we talked about, which is that we have procurement agents. I don't know what, like, I prefer purchasing, but they use procurement, so fine. But we've designated certain individuals that will have the authority to make purchases within the prescribed threshold of spending, or just like how much we authorize people to buy. So that includes the road foreman, the chair, the treasurer, the fire chief, the emergency management coordinator, which is like a vestige from the FEMA date, like flood days in case there is an issue. And then when it's solely town funds, the procurement process is the same. Like, or I should say, like, there's been no changes here from the last time we looked at this. This is all, the only thing that's changed are increased thresholds for where procurement involves federal funds, which we'll get to towards the end. But in this case, the categories are the same. Incidentals are up to 10,000, no prior approval needed as long as it's within the budget. The minor purchase category is going to be between $10,000 and $30,000. This one is where we had kind of a compromise, like the procurement agent can make that purchase with prior approval of the chair and the treasurer, and within the budget authorized. So that avoids, like, it streamlines the process and negates the need for the agent to come before the full select board, because we only meet twice, we meet twice a month, and if a purchase needs to be made in an off week when we're not meeting, like, the person can contact, basically just email the select board chair and the treasurer. So that was that is a Middlesex specific provision intended to streamline the procurement process for these medium-sized purchases. Still considered minor purchases, though, and if the chair and the treasurer can't agree on the purchase, then the individual would still need to come and get approval from the select board. And then major purchases is anything over 30,000. Something that Zara had mentioned in reviewing this was, I think this is the provision that you were talking about, Zara. The two vendors, like quotes from two vendors, must be obtained and documented.
Yeah, it mentions two vendors twice, but the FEMA makes us do 3, and frankly, the difficulty with getting vendors to do anything. I mean, I sent it out to 8 engineers and we only had 1 willing.
So I guess the question is, would you increase this, that like competitive quote, like, should we be reframing this?
I would just say at least 3 vendors, just to be compliant with FEMA.
But and so note though that this is for when municipal funds only, not necessarily federal or state Like, does
I-
that make a difference?
No, because when we go out for like mowers or what have you, I'd love to see more than just 2 quotes.
Okay. We can like,
Personal.
I have it highlighted as a placeholder in case anybody else, feels strongly one way or the other. I think more is better than less in terms of the competitive bidding process. I will note too that the difference between minor and major, so on a minor purchase in this threshold, it's not required, but competitive quotes from at least 2 vendors should be obtained whenever possible. So, we're talking about like, it would be either minimum 3 or minimum 2 competitive quotes or bids on anything over 30,000.
Casey, one thing, as long as we have verbiage in there that, and I don't see it, but maybe I'm just breezing over it, that says when possible, because one thing I'll say with a lot of municipal stuff for equipment or maybe surfaces, there may not always be 3 vendors that would be applicable for this specific thing. Unlike like office furniture or something like that, sometimes on like the road crew end, it can be very limited. So I just want to have a little bit of verbiage in there that gives some flexibility when possible or when it's not possible.
So maybe something like competitive quotes from, we could say like at least 3 vendors must be like requested and documented. If like, you could say something like, if you are, if 3 competitive quotes are not able to be obtained. I don't know, like, I'm not sure how to phrase that, but I get it. Like, we could just do where possible. I feel like it does soften, like if we say something like competitive quotes must be requested and documented where possible.
Sometimes people just have a expertise that only one person in the state has it, and you're not gonna find 3 people.
Sure. I
I
think
like when
that's
possible.
a pretty reasonable qualification, knowing the limitations of just like a small state in a small town with just sometimes like very few options, and we don't want to handicap ourselves,
Right.
from moving forward. So okay, we'll build in that flexibility. So that change sounds good. The recurring purchases if a recurring purchase, like in this case, this would be most applicable, I think, to our sand going forward, because we know that like sand budget is going up. Sand will be a recurring purchase at some point. It may make it like under this policy, the expectation would be that we're soliciting competitive bids if there's more than one like sand pit to choose from. That's the only thing I can really think of as far as recurring, like it's not like we've got a ton of options for fuel or anything. I'm not sure, like short of that, but it's there. Emergency purchases, that's the carve out. We don't define what constitutes an emergency, and I'm sure in hindsight we probably wish we did, but in this case, meeting public emergency, I think is fine. It's self-explanatory. And then let's see here, professional services has a higher threshold. You're allowed to, like, you can waive the bidding process for professional services. That's like legal, financial, insurance agents, architects, designers, things like that, up to $30,000. Period. So that's fine. And here's the last one, which probably fits right in with what Paul had said. If we determine that there's only one source for a proposed purchase, we can waive the bid proposal process and authorize that purchase. Totally fine. So I think that fits in really nicely with the where possible language. Then the next segment, like this is all, this just tracks like federal regulations in terms of requirements for the federal bidding process. The only thing that's changed since the last time we looked at this is the documented thresholds. So Micro purchases can be up to now 15,000, unless they're subject to the federal Davis-Bacon requirements. I left it at 10 just because, but I did update this one. The small purchases, by definition, are now between like 15 up to 350. The prior threshold had been 250. So I was just like, okay, like, let's just update it to 350. It gives more, like, the small purchase characterization is more flexible. So I found a typo because the large purchase number needs to mirror the small purchase number. So I assume that just reflects like trends in federal spending, that they're pushing these numbers up because everything costs more. Yeah. Beyond that, the sealed bid process with federal funds is only triggered. I think the increased value helps because it's the $350,000 or more. I don't think we're entertaining anything like that using federal funds anytime soon, but if we were, we would need to do a sealed bid process. Woohoo! Which is, I mean, like,
Well, we will with FEMA, doesn't that count?
Yes, it is.
We'll be doing that soon with the summer FEMA work.
And then guardrails.
Like the Brook Road, or not Brook Road, Lower Stony Brook, or Upper
All of them.
the
All of the roads that
washout.
need work, Dirt Tech isn't like our contractor for the 4810
No,
for regular repairs.
it'll be,
Got it.
bid out.
It'll go out to bid.
Okay. Well, in that case, this will be really like having this in place is nice because it's the framework. It lays out the framework that we need to follow to stay compliant with federal regulations governing same. It's just yeah.
Sorry, can you back up? I'm confused
Oh
about
yeah.
the simplified acquisition, small purchases and the large purchases by competitive proposals. So a simplified acquisition, small purchases, and you say purchases with an aggregate total value between 10,000 and 350,000.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what. And then large purchase. What's the difference between those two?
Purchases. Hold on.
Like,
That's a good question.
like why large purchases begin with a value of 250 or more?
Well, that's okay. So the typo, the copy that got printed out had a typo, because the federal government just increased that threshold. So the new threshold for all of these, and if we want to like truly update it, it would be micro purchases are up to 15, and then small
Okay.
purchases are 15 to 350, and then large purchases are 350 and above.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Sorry, and like
but you wanted to
those
keep it
just
at 10
changed in
and 250?
October.
Okay, did you
I
want to
mean-
keep it? Was that your suggestion?
Like it's just one of these numbers seem to be changing. Literally, this is the third iteration of numbers since
Yeah.
we started working on this in June. They just keep going up in terms of the thresholds.
Right.
Frankly, I think with these numbers were put in place in late October, and I think
Yeah.
it makes sense like to utilize them simply because then maybe
Yeah.
we buy ourselves more time to not have to update this again.
Yes.
I would
so
say
yeah,
that.
would
I agree
be
with that.
so it should be under like on the federal thresholds it would be up to 15 micro 15 to 350 small, and then anything over 350 requires the sealed bid process. But I don't believe that. So on the small purchases for 15 to 350, it's price or quotes must be obtained from an adequate number of qualified sources. That is the provided language in the model policy. So I assume that just means like more than one, but probably leaves a lot, like it seems to build in a lot of discretion. And then frankly, I just don't, we have a lot of, I'm much more comfortable in like customizing the language for the municipal spending, but I think we need to really, like, my suggestion is to just defer to VLCT's model language on the federal contract, like the federal procurement language, which all of this is. because they've done their homework and it tracks current federal regulations.
Okay, yeah, I
So
think that makes sense too. So we should, when you update it those 15 and 15 to
Yeah.
350 and 350 and above.
the values are all here. So I'm thinking if everyone is otherwise like fine with utilizing the most current federal spending thresholds, I will email this. I can email this to everybody, and then maybe someone over at town hall, you can print it out so that the everybody can, like, those who are present can sign it tonight, and I can swing by and sign it. But I will. This
I just
is
want to double
not.
check.
Yep.
We actually have Rob Halpert here sitting in our audience. Is this something you think you should look at before we sign it?
Yeah, if you do so, probably be best.
Okay, so Rob thinks that it might be best that he just reviews it, so maybe we can approve it. We can approve and sign at our next meeting in February.
Mhm.
Yes, Larry.
Stacy, just to clarify for me, maybe I missed it, but on these purchases, when it allows you in this policy to waive the purchases, is it the procurement agents that will waive that, or is that something the select board will be doing?
Hold on.
If you
For
go back
small
to May-
purchases, Larry?
No, yeah, if you go to like emergency purchases, you know, the ones where we can waive it.
Oh, the
sole
sole,
source.
like the sole source
Yeah.
purchase. The sole source. So like waiving the bid requirements only applies to the extent that they're like our bid requirements. And because like in this case, we don't have hard bid requirements. If that makes sense. So like to the extent like we did have that in the major purchases, that competitive quotes from at least 3 vendors must be requested and documented. But I guess so adding in where possible on the major purchases, it kind of makes the sole source purchases not as essential. It's more like the sole source purchases is really meant like if we have a hard and fast requirement on the major purchases, like you need 3 quotes. And if you can only get 1 quote, then you need to get permission from the select board to waive that quote bidding requirement. And that only applies, that would only have applied to the major purchases, but we're softening the major purchase competitive bidding requirement anyways that I doubt we'll ever need to formally waive sole source purchasing. But I don't necessarily want to take it out either. Like I kind of like it there, but
Yeah.
it's sort of like your tonsils. Like you can live with them, but you can live without them.
Stacy, I'm assuming this one is most applicable, or at least for us to, like an emergency situation where our roads, you know, go kind of completely away overnight, and you know, because of a number of that magnitude, that's really the only thing that would really qualify us for that to get triggered.
Yeah, so like the emergency purchases is gives the select board a lot of authority. But though I should say it is the select board and not necessarily procurement agents, which frankly I like because I don't necessarily want a procurement agent to have like unfettered authority in an emergency situation. I think there should be some checks and balances since the procurement agents already have a lot of spending power.
Does it
and
say
so-
so in the policy? Does it say the select board will do the waiving, or, I mean, does it?
It does, yeah. So the language here is like under emergency purchases, the select board may award contracts and make purchases for the purpose of meeting the public emergency without complying with the bid process. Emergency purchases can include immediate repair of property, vehicles, or equipment like roads. And yeah, so the board, like we can convene and approve, you know, whatever purchase or contract is needed. Like if we had flood 2026 and needed to retain a contractor, and that contractor is like, it's going to be, you know, $100,000 to repair this road. We can do that without soliciting competitive proposals because
All right, thank
it's
you.
an emergency. Yes,
Sarah,
Sarah?
I do want to get to the next agenda item because everybody's here and there's.
I just have one
some
quick
things.
thing.
Go
I
ahead,
just
yeah.
wanted to add on that emergency thing that we add in infrastructure, because I know that the roads are our property, but if we could just add infrastructure I'm good. Thank you.
And can I also just make one suggestion too, on the people who are allowed to make purchases, even though it hasn't been approved yet? If you just put town administrator, we don't have one, they can't approve it, but if we do have one, we want that in the procurement policy, the purchasing policy. Okay, so Stacy, if you can send that cleaned up version to all of us, and then I'll have Rob take a look at it. And then we can put it on the agenda for in February to sign it, and we will have that done before town meeting. Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy.
Okay, alrighty, well, welcome folks from South Bear Swamp Road. So we are at the 5:45 piece of the agenda, which is the agenda item is to consider the request from resident Mike Hill of South Bear Swamp Road to authorize the road crew to sand a 100-yard portion of South Bear Swamp Road beyond the limits of the Class 3 portion of the road until such time as Mike's own sander equipment is repaired or replaced, with the understanding Mike will cover additional cost of the sanding. And then there's a second part of the agenda, which is consider Mike Hill's additional request to initiate reclassification proceedings to upgrade a portion of the Class 4 section of Bear Swamp Road to a Class 3 action possible. So we have folks I know here from South Bear Swamp Road. We have Mike here. So Mike, I guess I can give you the floor if you'd like to summarize your request. That'd be great.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everybody. I'm not gonna speak much because I've already submitted a lot of writing, but just a few corrections. It's not just my petition. At Peter Hood's suggestion in 2002, all 5 families in just a 0.3 mile section asked for this. So it's not just me. And the sander that was emergency, broken, unfortunately, is mine and John's. And it was a snowy, horrible morning, December 29th, and I could see nobody was gonna get out. We had sick kids in the neighborhood and nobody was gonna be able to get in. So I simply asked the sander, probably, anyway, you can go 100 yards down, something I've offered since 2019, not just to cover the costs, but to cover the cost plus 50%. Town said no. Response I got was in Front Porch Forum. We're not doing this for Class 4, and that's been an issue, but I don't want to go into all that. But I do want to correct the agenda. What I requested is a request from 5. It's a sander owned by 2 people. We bought it only after, from 2019 to 2022, I did nothing but offer to the town to upgrade the road at my own expense for the first 10th mile, because that first hill is horrible for 5 families. And I got nothing but rudeness and shutdown, frankly. And then in 2022, other events happened, which were very, very bad. So that's when we made the petition, and that was shot down with statements that were frankly knowingly inaccurate, and they're in writing, and they shocked me. But I went away. I was not going to do the 5% petition. I felt that we were being bullied, and I wasn't going to bother 2,000 people in the town when we were being bullied by a small few over something as small as 0.3 miles of road when there's 5 families in there. We're less than 1/10 of a mile per family, and we all pay taxes. And the road used to be better. It was great when we bought here. So we're simply trying to be asking to be treated the same as everybody else. And I've laid low since 2022 when we did that petition, but here I am now asking for the town to consider it again, because we do pay taxes. If the town had simply gone down and sanded 100 yards like any neighbor would have done, any neighbor, we were willing to pay 150%. Instead, we had to ask a sander from 10 miles away to do it, and climate impact, all that. So here we are. The other thing is we have a road closed sign at the beginning of our 0.3 mile section that is completely misleading. It's like teenagers moved a stop sign around it. So the sign is tipping over, half its letters are missing, but it tells fuel trucks they can't go there, but the road's not closed because we plow it for 3/10 of a mile for 5 families, but still we can't get fuel there. I've been waiting since December 4th to get fuel, and fuel trucks won't come. Hoping they'll come tomorrow, but don't know. Happens all the time, and we pay taxes, same as everybody else. But the real danger is when you have a road closed sign there where we are still plowing, people drive through there, and then they get to the 5th driveway, and they still drive through. And just in the past couple of years, 2 families have got stuck down there, a woman with a 4-month-old baby and a toddler stuck there in the middle of the night because of a road safety issue. If we can't agree, and I've asked for it in writing, can we not move this on? The road's not any more closed to through traffic there than it is at the beginning of road, South Bear Swamp Road, 1.6 miles down. So it's highly misleading. It's highly dangerous. It endangers the 5 families of ours because emergency vehicles can't get in there and fuel trucks won't go there, but also families have a false negative or a false positive because they go and then they keep going. So it's a safety issue and it just seems unacceptable, but I've said enough in writing already. I'm gonna let others speak and then you've got all I've written. I'm here to answer any questions under oath. I mean, I was accused earlier when I waited for 3 years, offering nothing but my wallet out of going immediately into lawyer mode. That was the phrase that we used. When I just said, look, you gotta treat us the same as other people. That's the law. You have to do it. And we're not under any scenario. And so if I'm acting in lawyer mode, that's a good thing for you all. If I say anything that's untrue or doesn't have a demonstrable good faith basis, all you have to do is report me to the bar and I'll lose my license. So I come as a lawyer. I've settled 99.9% of the things I've done over the last 30 years of my life. The only 2 things I haven't settled were with the Middlesex government and the DC government. And that's not a good track record for Middlesex. It's not. I'm mostly retired now. I represent the Air Force around the country. I'm an environmental lawyer. I didn't come here to fight, but a fight has been picked with me. And because of the animus, and it is expressed animus toward me by at least 2 people on the board, 3 really. All 4 of my neighbors who are completely innocent in all this, I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking only for me. I've been very clear with the town. I'm only speaking for me, but the town has said, because we don't like the way you approached it, Mike Hill, we are less likely to give you the relief. Well, under Vermont case law and under the US Constitution, that's an illegal statement. It's an illegal position. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm being threatening, but this is the law. And it would be, I think, not cool for me to not tell you what the law is and, you know, where we might need to go if we're not treated equally. Discrimination doesn't just apply to minorities. There is discrimination in classes of 1. You just can't do it. There's a case in Georgia where a select board discriminated against a man named Rhodes, and Georgia, the town of Georgia, where it was just an item of the select board, animus toward him. And the Vermont Supreme Court said, you can't do it. You can't discriminate. So anyway, I'll stop it.
Thank you, Mike. I just want to give you guys a point of clarification about the process. So there's 2 ways. So and correct me if I'm hearing you wrong, Mike. There's 2 things we're talking about, but your conversation leads more about the reclassification to a class 4 and turning it into a class 4 road. And there's 2 ways that to a class 3, right? There are 2 ways that you can request an upgrade from a class 4 to a class 3. And one of them is just like coming here today, like you have, right? And just saying, hey, this is the reason why we think it needs to be done. We would like the select board to consider it. And then the select board, which is what's happening right now. So this is on the agenda for us to consider this. And you know, what we will do is, you know, we'll look at our class 4 policy. We'll, you know, maybe discuss why, you know, why this might be a good idea or why it might not be a good idea. And we make a decision. That decision may lead you to say, well, I would like to, and Mike mentioned this petition of 5% of the signatures. And so that is where it's for 5% of the town, it's like 75 people. So you need to go around to 75 people and say, we would like you to sign this petition that considers turning this section. It might be the whole section. It might be all the way to the end of, you know, that other at the top of East Bear Swamp, that whole section. So the whole thing, you might say, you know, we think that it's in the best interest of the town and the public for this to be a class 3 road, right? Or it might be, we think it's in the best interest of the town for you to turn just this section up until Joanne Bridenstine's and the, across from them. Are you the person, are you the ones?
Yes.
Okay, so, just up until then, that we turn into class four. So whatever you decide as a group, if the decision tonight is no, we're not going to, then that would be your next step, is that you would have to get 75 or 5% of the signatures, which is about 75 signatures. So you have to go to everybody in town to get a signature, but you do need 75. And then there's a whole process that we go through that is much more official, like we have to have a public hearing. We invite landowners, and yeah, Rob, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Liz. I just wanted to clarify and guess I'll apologize first because I'm in lawyer mode now. And that's why I'm here. But when Liz says there's two ways to get the road reclassified, and one is to simply, you can bypass this petition aspect with the 75 signatures, if that's the right number. That's certainly one way to do it. That forces the select board to schedule a hearing. And then the select board has to go out, take a look at the road, inspect it, come back, probably here. Have a hearing, you notice the hearing the same way you would notice like an annual town meeting, 30 days notice, newspapers, all that stuff. The second way to do it, and I'm not sure if Liz said this or not, but I kind of heard it. The select board can't just decide on its own to reclassify or alter in any way a road. You have to go through that same hearing process.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that, okay, yeah,
It's just that there's two ways to get to that.
I see, okay,
One is if you were presented with a petition, then you have absolutely no choice, you have to have the hearing. You could also just decide on your own whether Mike or any of the neighbors or anybody else on any other road comes and says, I'd like you to schedule a so-called reclassification hearing because we'd like to make our road class 3. The select board can, a majority of the board can simply say, yeah, let's have a hearing. And then that's the hearing.
okay,
Either way, you have to have a hearing.
you have to have a hearing, okay,
I just wanted to clarify.
yeah, thank you for doing that, Mike, yes.
Well, yeah, I agree with Robin. I meant to say ahead of time, let's not spend a lot of time tonight because we have limited time on the 5%. I certainly don't intend to go the 5% route. As a matter of law, the other route is a majority of the board, 3 out of 5, can just say, look, we think it's the right thing to do, and you schedule a hearing. But you can get to that point either by the board deciding on its own, given the history, and you have the history. I've written the history to you, and I've posted a website on my nonprofit, Return to Law. Get back to the way we were in the 1980s, where people just did the right thing. You can look at the facts of this history here. The board can tonight and say, all right, forget the 5%. You don't have to do that. You know, there's a 5th grade bully. You don't have to get all the other 1st graders with you to confront that bully. I'm confronting the bully, and the bully was on the board, in 2022. He's not here now, but he was backed up by 3 people on the board who said things that were knowingly inaccurate. What I was told in 2022 was if I just got a petition of 5, if it was unanimous in our little pod, that would be enough for Peter Hood, the chair of the board at that time. I confirmed that in writing with Peter and with my 5, saying, Peter has said that if just the 5 of us will do it, that'll be enough for Peter. We don't have to do the 5%. But when we came to a meeting just like this, it's recorded, and Peter was sitting next to Vic, Peter said, I didn't say that. Well, it's in emails that are posted on our website now. It's just clear as day that he did say that. And the only reason I asked my 4 neighbors to get out on the branch with me where they might be threatened was because Peter had assured me that we'd be okay. And I figured if Peter was going to support it, everybody would support it. But Peter didn't support it. And Vic didn't support it. Vic was the guy who threatened us. And then, you said, Liz, and so did Randy Drury, this would be like asking to have your private road plowed or your driveway. No, it's not. Zara has told us we're not even allowed to fix our road. You can fix your private road. You can keep Vic off your road. You can keep other people off your road. This is our road. It's degraded every year since Vic's threat and even before it. And when Paul Sermonero was road commissioner, the road when I bought, the road was great. You couldn't tell the difference between the front of my house and the 1.6 miles before. But since that time, And we were threatened that road, and this was told to you in 2022. Vic said, well, if you don't like it, maybe we'll turn your road into a trail. And, that's not the way people can behave in any government. And when we reported that, I expected the board then to say, all right, we're gonna set this up for a hearing 2 weeks from now, a month from now. They didn't. And Zara said she was gonna look into this stuff, and she too thought I was too much of a lawyer. But she said, if I backed off and my client took the lead, she'd look into it. We're the only through road in town, the only through road that's class 4. We're the only place in town where there's people this congested that's class 4. We're kept worse than trails, but none of the things that were promised in writing, we're done. So I'm gonna shut it now. I've talked out.
Okay.
Ahead here.
Thank
John,
you.
should speak, so, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. So and just for the record, I don't know what you're talking about with Vic and his threats, so I just want to make that clear that I'm not aware of that, but, yes.
My wife, spoke at that.
I'm sorry, can you just say your name?
John Lund, I'm at
John Lund.
406 South Bear Swamp. I'm at the end of this, 23
Yeah.
miles. And, I think it's important that I do explain the threat because it was actually made directly to me. And at the time, at the board meeting that Mike was at in 2022, my wife was part of on Zoom. I couldn't be there. She did bring up and actually to the board that the threat was made to our family by Vic. So that
Okay,
was-
I
that's-
don't remember that. I'm
Right, you
sorry.
might not,
Yeah.
but you could go back and actually see that
Yeah.
on video. So, we came here in 2021, we're relatively still new to town. We were sort of aware of what class 4 meant, but we slowly learned, or quickly learned, I should say. But in 2022, we were told that was one of the worst mud seasons we'd seen in years. I'm sure you all remember it. And so by summertime, the roads have been cleared up and graded. Our road was shambled. I mean, it was bad. So I, like anybody might do, I reached out to the phone number I could find on the website for the road commissioner, because in our old hometown, that's who I would have called. And I left a really, nice voicemail just saying who I was, where I lived, and we were concerned. And the phone call I got back was anything. It was nothing like I expected to get. It was very aggressive, threatening. I was being asked questions like where I came from and how long I've lived here and if I was associated with Mike Hill, as if any of these were negative things. And so I answered all the questions, but I just said, hey, I'm just trying to see what we can do about our road. It's pretty bad. Can you grade it? And that's when Vic at the time, who I didn't know was a select board member as well, said pretty threateningly, well, I should just turn that back into a trail. And I didn't take that as a joke because it didn't sound like a joke. So shortly after I got off the phone, I actually found, or somebody gave me Eric's direct phone number, and I reached out, and he was great. Came right out a few days later and graded it for us. So since then, I've only dealt with Eric because I felt like I couldn't go to anybody else at the time. That was the first moment I'd ever had an encounter or a conversation with anybody from the town, whether it's the board or anything. So it's pretty disheartening. We came here with hopes and dreams and starting a new life. We're gonna build a house, we bought on this, beautiful piece of land up in the woods of Vermont. And so, jump ahead, since that time, I thought it was pretty imperative that, it was kind of a mission for me to try to get this road upgraded. Because many people have told me, oh, they should upgrade that. It's a through road. You got 5 families up here, you connect right to East Bear. It's actually closer for me to get a fire truck or get to the school or the town garage from East Bear, and to me, 2 years in a row, both floods, because of the work, we were granted, it was a verbal, like, yes, please do this. We were given permission to repair parts of our road after the flooding because the town was inundated. You guys know very well. South Bear Swamp was cut off at close to Center Road. So 20-some families may not have been able to get emergency groceries, gas, get to work. Had me and some other neighbors not repaired our section. It actually opened the road up for about a day and a half for any of that, about 20-some homes. So to me, it's a safety thing. I'm here for the long haul. I hope to get to know all of you. I really appreciate all the work you do and the volunteer hours. It's amazing. I hope someday I can give more to the town because, you know, my wife's a school teacher at U32. My kids go to school here. We're investing ourselves into Middlesex. So we're just asking for you to invest back into us. You know, we want to be here for the long haul, and I think upgrading a road like ours, which is a connector to two main arteries, it's a bigger picture thing. You know, people will want to come here if the roads are safer. We need to broaden our tax base, you know, so that these expenses, like 0.3 of a mile, aren't such a detrimental thing. You know, a family like mine, who I'm a little more adventurous, might come up here and invest and build a house and bring their kids to school if the roads are a little better. And I know we're all, you know, the roads and the costs and everything, I'm very sensitive to that, especially after the floods. But I think this is sort of a small request with a bigger picture view, at least in my eyes. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Did you have, are you also from this South person? Okay, so, let's just go back to the agenda item, that's on here. That is, before we get into the bigger question of whether or not we as a board, think that we should, not require the 75 signatures and say, yes, we will consider, your request and we will,
Have a hearing.
have a hearing, right? And have a hearing about it, right? I just want to be clear, are you all hoping that the entire mile becomes a class 3 road? So between the top of the road where the sign is, all the way to the top of East Bear Swamp Road and whatever that is, are you hoping that entire road becomes a class 3? Is that your request?
I think it makes the most sense. But, you know, that may not be feasible.
I can speak to that a little bit as to the 5. So, all the 5 asked for in 2022 was just the 0.3 where we live, because we need emergency vehicles and the like.
And do you mean all the way to like Joanne and Lund, like just up till there?
Yeah.
Is that 0.3?
Top of the hill
Okay.
where Rita Richardson and Dave Feldman live.
Yeah.
And it goes technically 0.34 miles to the last driveway on the right, that's John's.
Okay.
John and Sarah's. All right, so, and there's 5, and I'm the first, and the Chapins, who have been here since the 1700s, are the second. And Bill Chapin's 77, he's been here his whole life, and he pays taxes. And in the last 2 years, the person who threatened us, the town spent $700,000 on his road in 23 and 24, when his road was far better than ours, and paid nothing for Bill Chapin's road. I mean, that's discrimination, and the remarks that came to me showed animus. I mean, actual animus. That's enough. So, and plus we were promised by Peter, but I want to be clear. John did, I mean, on his own, got out there. He saved the whole neighborhood in 23 and 24. We had a culvert that had sunk down about, I don't know, 12 feet, 10 feet wide. Everybody was stuck. The other end of South Bear, right, connecting to that center road, was stuck. And the only way out was that way. And it's only to John that we all got out. Nobody thanked her. Nobody paid John. The town did pay other people. It was after that that Zara wrote us and said, you can't even fix your road. And it just was, and it was animus and it's discrimination. And I know she's helped let other people do it. And that's, I mean, if we have to go this route, we will go this route, and we'll do FOIAs and discovery, because I'm not gonna let my 4 neighbors, I know I got them into this mess. In 2022, after having nothing but my wallet out for 3 years, getting threatened and saying, I'm not doing this. And I got pushed back with lawyer mode stuff, and now I'm determined that, and so I want to get to the big point, which I offered before we got here. Look, it's 0.34 miles. I will do the first 0.2 at my expense. If the town tonight begins the process, and that leaves the town with just doing 0.14 for for 3 families. If this town can't sit here tonight, if this board can't sit here tonight and say, okay, we're gonna begin the process and we're gonna have a hearing as soon as we can. In light of what, maybe you don't remember this, but it's right there, the threat was, and I told Peter about it before we came here, and I assumed Peter told you, I told Peter Alderson. And then Sarah, 5'2", bravely came here and reported it to Vic, and Vic's a scary dude. And yet nobody would stand up to him. I've never seen anybody in this town stand up to him. Finally, he was fired in June 2024. We've been told informally by 2 townspeople why, but I've asked the town, why was it? Tell me officially, why was he? Because when you went to secret session to fire him, you promised that you would give the explanation publicly, and you never did. And so, and now we're dancing on heads of a pin about, oh, well, it's this, it's that. Look, I don't need to know that. But what I need to know is when I walk out of here tonight, this town has seen the light. They're gonna begin the process of considering town paying for the upgrade of 0.14 miles if I do the first 2 miles at my, first 0.2 miles at my expense. So I'll cover my driveway, down my driveway, and I'll cover down to Bill Chapin's driveway. But the rest, and I'm not gonna do that unless you all protect the last 3 families. And if this town can't do that, I think Vermont Digger would have a field day with you. I just think it's the worst behavior I've seen from anybody since Mayor Marion Barry in DC. And we did, you know, we were successful in bringing action against him. So I'm not saying this lightly, but I am saying, please don't continue to blow us off because it has come to a head now. I just published the website now. It's time for you to do something and not delay any further. Because frankly, it's risky for John to even come here or Sarah to come here and say these things out loud. I didn't want them to be said out loud. I said to Peter, and I said to you, Liz, in the 2022 hearing, there's more to it than I can say, and there's more to it even now.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't understand what that is, but that's a different topic.
Okay, let's finish that. What it said is, there's more to it, and I said enough during the 22 hearing, which is videotaped, and I have it on the website, where I said, look, it is HR kind of stuff. I don't want to say it out loud, but it's ugly stuff and it's wrong. And you all, Peter knows it, you all need to fix this. That was over 3 years ago. And since that time, y'all spent $700,000 on Vic's Road and nothing on ours. Zara wouldn't even drive on the 0.4 miles of our road that's the further section. I asked her to come look at it after she was elected to the board. She came out and she said, no, I'm not driving my car on that section road. So to your final question, we all want the first 0.3 done, absolutely, and that's my offer. If you want to go further, all 5 people are okay with that, all 5. So if it's easier for you, and that was the pre-check given back in 2022, well, if we could have gone all the way through, we'd do it. The answer is on record here, yes, from all 5. I'm authorized to say from all 5 of us, yes. If you want to go all the way through, go all the way through. It would be safer. It would be better. I'm for it. Bill Chapin's for it. John Lund's for it. Mike Klein and Dan are willing, but we're all willing. There's nothing stopping you at all from doing the right thing. Just do the right thing.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And I just want to make a point of clarification that the amount spent on repairs for the flood for McCullough Hill Road, which is he is referring to as Vic's Road, it isn't related to the fact that Vic lives there. So it's related to the amount of repairs that were required as well as the length of the road and things like that. So I just want to make that clear to the public. So I would say, can I just go back to the first part of this agenda item, Mike, which is that you would still like us to sand? Is that still something that you would like us to do because your sander is still broken? So I want to address that.
Yeah, our standard's still broken, but I don't want to detract from the big question over that little question. I mean, like gas companies hopefully coming tomorrow, and John Picard came out tonight, drove 10 miles, 10 each way, or 5, whatever it is. So we sanded it for tonight, and hopefully gas will come tomorrow. I don't know. I mean, if you can do it, it makes sense. It's the neighborly thing to do. It's the climate friendly thing to do, and you get budget per service. I've already paid $1,000 toward it. So, you'd make money. It would help taxpayers because You know, if it costs you $1,000, I'd pay you $1,500. And it wouldn't cost you $1,000, but we're over a barrel because our sander is just broken. Now, I could spend $4,000 or $5,000 for a new sander, but even that would take time. And what do we do in the meantime? We need to. When I called December 29th, the Lunds were about out of fuel. And they couldn't get fuel there. Now they Band-Aid Scotch taped it and got through it, but that's not how a town acts or should act. So the sanding thing, don't waste time on that, but the moving from class 4 to class 3, yeah, tonight, before you leave, you should vote 3-2 at least, saying, yep, we're not promising it, but we're gonna consider it. I mean, it's Martin Luther King weekend, we're gonna consider it with all deliberate speed. We're gonna move on it in light of the history here. Because Hank did a bad thing and nobody said anything. Bad things have continued and it's time to say something because we can't stay silent as people when bad things are done. Vic threatened just a small group of us, but others fell into line. And here we are 3 years later, Vic's gone. And eventually we'll find out the reasons if we have to, but I'm hoping we can just go more smoothly, you know. That my last town I lived in, I was the head of the environment committees, town of similar size, and everybody got along. I never saw behavior like I've seen. So let's reverse it and move forward.
Okay, so in interest of staying on topic for the 25 minutes that I have allotted to this, I think at this point, we have a decision that we can make as a board, which is one to say, okay, let's go ahead and agree to do a public hearing and go through the process without requiring the 5% signatures. Or we say, we are going to require the 5% signatures. So I don't think there's any point in us talking right now about the value of why it should be a class 4 or not a class 4. Because
That would come in subsequent.
that would come in subsequent meetings. So, and do you guys have a policy right now? Have you seen the policy of our class 4 roads?
Maybe sometime.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a copy and I can email it to you guys if you want, because we're basically going by what our policy was that we updated back in 2017 of how class 4s are managed. But statutorily, as Rob Halpert has said, there are processes by which you can upgrade from a class 4 to a class 3, or from a trail to a class 3 if we wanted to do that too. Can I just clarify, is that whole section a class 4 or is any of that a trail? It's all class 4, okay.
Wait, look at it. There's 0.3, there's 0.3 where there are 5 families, and then there's another 0.4, but it's all class.
It's all class 4, okay, yeah. So is there discussion on this? Larry?
Yeah, I'm listening to everything that's being said. I've talked to Mike, you know, offline. I haven't met Mr. Lund, but you know, all the other families up there. But I think it's kind of seems like an issue that's been dragging on for a while, that's been kind of pushed aside. I think we owe them a hearing, at least a hearing. I think we should have it. And all parties involved come and we make a decision. And I don't, you know, to collect the signatures, I mean, they could do that, but it's easier, you know, I mean, if we push that away, they're gonna go get signatures and come back. So my belief is that we should have it. We owe them to this. It's been going on for a long time. Let's investigate it. Let's look into it and let's make a decision on what to do with the road. I do like what Mr. Lund said about doing the whole length of it and maybe broadening our tax base, because that would be helpful, but that's another issue for another time. Eric, what would it, can I just ask what the cost would be to do something to?
We would have to look into what would need to be done first. I can't give you a number. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, I'm in favor of having a hearing at some point.
And if we were to have a hearing, we could have that research done in advance to see how much it would cost for the smaller section versus the larger section. And I will just remind everyone that when the board is considering it and we have a public hearing, it is often about, is this for the best of the townspeople, the public, and sort of the greater good, right? Is this, you know, so that includes like budget, you know, the town budget, like, is this for the greater good of the town budget as well? So those are sort of things that we would be thinking about. Zara, do you have any comments?
I would just say that there are some misstatements from Mike Hill. He does tend to, of course, latch on to the newest select board member who has complete ignorance of anything that's gone on in the past. I did make it up your driveway in my recollection with my Subaru Forester, but I did agree that your road is damaged. I will warn you to be careful what you say I said, because with our lawyer present, I would happily countersue you. That being said, I do care about the people who live on that road, and I'm happy to move forward with a hearing.
Okay, without requiring the 5% signatures.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Paul?
Yeah, I'm Paul Sermonara, coincidentally. I happen to live on a class 4 road. My neighbor over there lives on a class 4 road, so I recognize the struggles. I also have to adhere to our class 4 policy with anything like that. I just want to kind of put out there that the last time that we did this, when the section of McCullough Road was upgraded, which would have been the last time that we
Yes.
upgraded from a class 4 to class 3. A lot of that was based off of some real incidents that happened with trucking companies, logistical companies, that were getting stuck there. And what ended up happening is we figured out that McCullough Road almost became a third primary road during the mud season, where when Center Road and Brook Road got so bad during mud season, a lot of folks would opt to use McCullough Road. So we ended up having a lot of support, actually from folks in the surrounding roads that use that as a through road, because if they so often used it during the summertime. So those folks were very, very for it, because it gave them another option if there was an accident on Center Road, if the mud off Brook Road was too bad. So we had a lot of general support around that. So I just want to put out there, not negating anything you guys have brought. They're all very valid. I appreciate it as a class 4 resident myself. We had a large base of folks who supported that because of the amount of broad use that road saw. So I want to throw that out there for some context on that road.
If I could just comment to that
Yeah.
real quick. Just this summer or early fall, when the culvert was being repaired near Molly Supple, on Center or East Hill, whatever that section is, the traffic was being diverted, and there was suggestion that everybody use McCullough Hill to get around. Very few people did. The traffic on our section of road probably quadrupled for however many days that work went on. Because I started noticing all the vehicles.
Coming through that.
Everybody on that side of town
Oh, interesting.
used our road, again, as a connector
Yeah.
to East Bear Swamp or to North Bear or whatever. It made more sense for them to turn left off of Center and go all the way up. As for the logistics, GPS tells almost everyone,
Right.
at least coming to my address or Joanne, Mike Klein's, or the Chapins, to go the other direction.
I'm sure.
Makes zero sense, but you know, every year I pull a FedEx truck out of the road, my tow strap, or we have a semi truck have to back out. I mean, it's the logging trucks use it. So I know none of you are seeing it because you don't live up there. So I understand that, but there is definitely a use of that loop. And then just one more point for the town trucks, you know, we see them come up, they sand, they plow, they have to turn around and go all the way back around. They could just go through the road, you help 5 families out, and then you connect right to East Bear, which they're gonna continue on to go towards the Hunger Trail. You know, that leg of East Bear. So there's a lot of other little things like that, you know, we didn't bring up today, and we could bring that up in the hearing, but I just want you to know that those are things that happen.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All the time.
Yeah, so I just, more for me is the clarity around, you know, if we go to the next step, it is more just, you know, there's a lot of public input for or against, and obviously the board has to take that into consideration. So,
Thank you.
Yes. One final item. The recent survey about class 4 upward it's about 18 families who live on 9 miles. That's a half mile per family. I want to make clear, we're 5 families within 0.3 of a mile. and we're offering to pay for more than half of it. So that's 3 families within a 20th of a mile. So I think that whole road survey was misleading, and I wrote the authors of that say, this is entirely misleading to even discuss in the context of us. I appreciate you've gone where I don't know where you live, Paul, but there's a lot of people, yeah, they knowingly, if I lived at the end of a half-mile stretch, I wouldn't expect this at all. But I live in 0.3 mile stretch, and I didn't expect it. I offered to pay, and then I was threatened. And then the road was made worse. Water bars and crowning was taken out of the hill. Now the hill is rivers in the springtime. Vic, I believe intentionally, certainly believe recklessly, hurt our road. Our road is so soupy now, we couldn't even get a plow truck up in the winter. We had to buy a skid steer with tracks. Our road is getting made worse and worse. Our road is now on the Middlesex Trails Committee website, a picture of our road. So we have been discriminated against. I'm going to ask Zara to publish what she accused me earlier tonight of saying things that are not true. I'm going to ask her to be very specific because you said I said things that are not grounded. I want to hear what they are. You mentioned that Rob may countersue me over them. So Zara, I came here tonight. I've been very careful.
Point of
about
order.
everything I've said.
Yeah,
Point of order.
yes, please, Larry.
Mike, an accusation like that from a board member again. And the animus that you expressed against me is illegal, Sarah. I will talk to Rob about that and you in his presence. But
Okay,
not
thank you, Mike.
at this point.
That point over is just that we're going off track. on
Yes.
what the question was.
I do want to reach Stacy here who has a comment. Yes, Stacy.
So I think that I would endorse moving to taking up this issue on our own accord. I think that the residents that have come to speak to the board today have made various compelling arguments that would support the board's decision to take the issue up on its own accord in lieu of a petition. I say that too because unfortunately the statute is not it's like an afterthought that the board can take this up on its own, and so there's no parameters or guidelines or guidance as to what, why, or when the board decides to reclassify a road, but it is in our rather broad authority to do so, and I think it would be a reasonable exercise of our authority in this particular case. The angle that I come at it from, and I just want, feel like it's worth noting is in terms of flood resiliency, and speaking from personal experience, Macy Road got really lucky in 2023, and then we got pretty unlucky in 2024, where we lost a really sizable chunk of our road. And there were a couple of days where we were stuck. There's a back road that connects our, where our house is on Macy to another neighbor's house on Wood Road that would have allowed us to obtain emergency services or get out in case of a medical event. But I think just that for me gave me a new appreciation for the importance of through roadways and, maximizing alternative routes of ingress and egress for our residents. And when so from that experience, that experience is coloring how I view this issue, that, to classify the remaining approximately 1 mile segment of South Bear Swamp Road to a Class 3 town maintained road would improve our flood resiliency in the event that either of the Bear Swamps, East Bear Swamp, South Bear Swamp, North Bear, if any of the Bear Swamps get washed out, or even if Molly Supple gets washed out, that there's an alternative route for folks. And I think, in our post flood times that alone makes good sense in just entertaining the question. I don't appreciate I understand that there's baggage. I don't think that the board should be acting in response to past harms. I think those should be separately addressed to the extent that, these folks have raised issues and concerns and grievances and like those should be recognized. But for me, coming in as one of like the fresh faces, I guess, that's not familiar with any of this past history, I just think like this makes sense. When you look at a map, it makes sense. And from a flood response, flood resiliency, what can we do to make sure that our communities stay safe and as sound as possible in the event of another flood, which seems inevitable? I would support a motion to consider this and to start the statutory hearing process to entertain such a request. And I would also support reclassifying the entire mile to make it a through road that connects both of, I think it's East Bear Swamp and South Bear Swamp. So that's where I fall on this particular issue.
Okay, and I'll just add that I think I'm fine also without requiring the 5% signatures, but going through the process of having a public hearing and inviting the public to comment about this change. I also just want to add, just for your sake, that our class 4 policy does allow for people to make improvements on the road. They just need to ask permission. So there isn't, I think that was probably Zara being new on the board. If she said that at one point, she didn't understand that, yes, you can do that, but you just ask permission.
After the flood, we did get some verbal permission.
Yeah.
Repairs in emergency.
Exactly, yeah. And, sometimes people are like, oh, can I cut these trees down because of blah, 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 it's like, they just have to ask and that's fine. Okay, so Stacy has made that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Larry seconds. Did you have a comment,
Liz?
Rob, before we?
I want to make sure the board is very careful because we have there were two options here.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's enough support to schedule a hearing
Yes.
without the need for the petition, and that's all well and good. But we should, when you pass the motion should make sure that it's specifying whether you're just doing that 0.34 mile section, which was the original request. But it's also morphed during our discussions tonight to the entirety of the class 4 section from South Bear Swamp all the way over to where it meets with East Bear Swamp, if I'm getting my Bear Swamps right, which I never ever do. Because there's
Rob, if there is a hearing and let's say we propose the entire section, the entire road, the entire mile, is there an opportunity in the hearing for it to be brought back down or vice versa? Like if we only propose the 0.3 and people are like, no, I want it to be the whole road, or is that something different?
That's a great question, and my top of the head answer is that I'd be careful about doing that because the whole notion of the notice process.
And what it says in the notice,
So
yeah,
you
okay.
have to sort of picture somebody at their home knows nothing about this issue, but they're entitled to come to this hearing. And if you warn it as just a 0.34, that person sitting at home may say, I don't really care about that 0.34 section, so I'm not going to the meeting.
Right.
But they might care very much and be very much in favor or opposed if it was the entire section of road. So you have to be pretty precise. And I would argue that that's kind of why I interrupted here, which I apologize for.
That's okay.
But I think the motion tonight needs to specify whether we're going to schedule a hearing to consider upgrading the entirety of the road or just the 0.34 mile section.
Paul, you had a comment?
Yeah, Stacy, and I think one thing that tagging off of what Rob's saying here is that the other portion of the road could be quite a bit more costly than the portion that the folks are proposing at the moment. I think the other section is not as ideal. It's much narrower if I recollect.
It's not as maintained.
It's not as maintained, so the only reason I'm not against, for me, it's obviously a budget number as well. You know, cause we would ultimately, as much as I love the offer, Mike, I don't think we could accept money for that. I don't know the answer, but I don't think we could. That would be more of like a for-profit type of, but either way, we would incur the cost, whether we, so, what's that?
It would have an ethics issue.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, you know, we would have to incur those costs. So, while I'm not against the safety portion of being able to utilize it as a through road, the dollar amount at this time, because it can always be done again, you know, it definitely can. So that I would be
Yeah.
more in favor of the section they're requesting.
Can you repeat that? I think Stacy got bounced up.
Yeah, Stacy, I don't know where I left you, but where I went with that was the section, the additional section of what would be considered the through road is not only longer, but it's in much worse shape. It would take significantly more work. And we know from past experience, we would incur all the costs of this. We wouldn't be able to utilize Mike's kind offer of being able to, you know, partially fund this. So I would be concerned about the amount of money as a whole that we would need to, you know, to upgrade the whole thing. So in my opinion, for at least this portion, I would at least suggest that we only talk about the 0.34 mile section.
I guess my only like concern, I guess, would be is that because this is a public hearing and it's something that we as a board have to, you know, consider, is this upgrade for the greater good of the public? It's for the greater good of the 5 people, but it's not for the greater good of the public because it still doesn't allow for that road to go through, right? It's just extending it for the folks who live there. And then, you know, and then you're opening up the can of worms for the, you know, there are 20 families that live on class 4 roads who will be like, well, why aren't you doing my road too, right? It's that there's no throughway, but you upgraded theirs. I want mine upgraded as well. And so then you start to have this precedent that's been set for something that isn't a through road. Because, you know, when these, you know, I don't know how long, I think that has it always been a class 4 road? I don't know the history of it, but you know, when people bought their property there, that was actually a question I had for the listers, over here, Sam and Shelley. If this were to suddenly become a class 3 road or eventually become a class 3 road, do the houses, when you're appraising them and going through your matrix of appraisal, does it say whether or not they're on a class 3 or class 4, like the public egress? No, okay.
Probably more proximity to fire.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, water.
Maybe something like that, yeah. So that was just one of my thoughts, was that, you know, so I worry that if we don't make it a through road, there's gonna be less appetite for that.
Yes. I mean, the issue of
Just-
Saturday
Can I-
day precedent
Hold on, Stacy, Mike just has a comment.
Yeah,
came up expressly in the context of this road. Peter says, no, 0.4 miles is too small to set a precedent. And all 5 board members voted unanimously that 0.4 miles was too small to set a precedent. When we came in 2020, you know, 4 years later, 2022, and said, how about 0.3 miles? The board said, oh, it set a dangerous precedent at the first hearing. Then I found out from other people in the community, that ain't so. They've already said 0.4 isn't dangerous. So when I came in October at the hearing, I said, look, you can't do the precedent thing with us. You could do it maybe with somebody who's a half mile up a road. That might set a dangerous precedent for one family, but we're 5 families. And now I'm asking you for 3 families in 0.14. And I don't think it's an ethics issue. And if it is, I want to steer clear. I will not do anything that's unethical. Return to law is about ethics in government. But the way the statute reads, and Rob knows a lot more about it than I do, you all can make the decision of what you're gonna do, and you can ask us as a condition of upgrading to 3, ask us to pay for it. So I'm saying, if you get to that point, I will pay for the, in Callis had this recently, there was a challenge.
Okay.
So I will pay for the 0.2. Let's be crystal clear, because this might go to the Government Ethics Commission or the state auditor if it doesn't go well tonight. I'm sorry, Stacy, but I'm not Stacy. Sarah, I'm offended by what you said earlier, and I need.
Mike,
Mike, we're really trying to.
I know, but
yeah, Rob, I'd like Rob to make a
I'm sorry,
comment.
okay.
Our council.
I'm not
I'm
making,
just saying I can pay. I mean, I'm willing to,
Thank
I'd
you.
rather not pay.
That's very generous of you.
Okay.
I want to point out a couple issues on money stuff. First of all, this is a little off topic, but when Mike first wrote to me, he also copied each of the select board members and I believe other town officials. But that letter was addressed to me. The letter was principally, although it had a lot of info in it, the principal request, which we're not really dealing with tonight, was to sand the 100 yards.
Right.
Along with that request, Mike offered in his letter to pay what he considered to be 150% of whatever that cost is. I don't know what that cost is. I don't know if any of us do, but I suppose we could figure it out. The point is that Mike sent me with that original letter, a check from his personal account payable to the town of Middlesex, $1,000. I would like clarification. What I should have done with that check is cashed it and flown to Puerto Rico, but I didn't do that. I still have that check. My inclination is to return that to Michael based on our discussion tonight, and since the sending request doesn't even appear to be on the table anymore. A broader issue with respect to the money. I get a little queasy as well when I start thinking about, well, there's a resident of the road who would benefit from an upgrade, offers to pay for it. The statutes are a little bit wiggy on this issue in that when there's a petition filed with the 5% and all that, the statute's pretty clear. It says that if the select board makes this part of their order, let's say you grant the petition to upgrade the road, you can then require, you don't have to, but you can condition the upgrade on the petitioners fronting the cost of the upgrade. So in other words, the town's obviously going to be on the hook of plowing and ditching, all that stuff that you do for class 3s once you have it upgraded. That's the town's nut. But the statutes give the board an opportunity to say, yeah, we'll convert this to a class 3 road, we'll upgrade it, but we want the petitioners to bear the initial cost of paying for what it's going to cost to upgrade it, okay? If you proceed on the select board's own motion, I really don't know what the answer is on that statutory provision because it's very specific. It says the petitioners can be required to pay. I don't know that you could require anyone to pay for this if you take
If
this up.
we're taking it
I
up.
just want to make that clear.
Okay,
Which with
I
McCall
also-
Road, we did.
And I also want to point out that
we
if
did.
Mike
But
Hill
that was by petition.
or John Lund or Rob Alpert or anybody, anywhere, contacts the town and says, you know, municipal government is like a lot of other things, it's underwater, it's, tough funding, want to make a contribution, you're allowed to do that. And if you're a town, you're entitled to receive a contribution. If the donor says that that contribution is restricted to a certain thing, the library fund, upgrading the town clerk's office, whatever it is, you have to honor that request and that money can only go to that purpose. But if somebody makes an unrestricted gift, it can go right into the general fund. Just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
No, Michelle Johnson, I do have a question with regards to allowing a community member to pay to upgrade the road. What if they upgrade the road and now the town is taking care of that class 3 road? What if they don't upgrade it properly or to the way that it needs to be upgraded in order for the town to take care of it properly. So then do they have to pay to continue to upgrade it until it's correct?
I mean, my thought would be
I mean,
that it's not like Mike is doing it himself. He would be paying us to do it or
Right.
hiring someone to do
Right,
it.
But-
what would be a hard argument, Michelle, is the fact that 90% of our side roads that are class 3 would not meet the state qualification for those standards.
Yeah.
That's the God's honest truth.
Yeah.
A lot of our roads do not, and they likely never will, because it would be so invasive to others'
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
A lot of towns are very similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with that additional information, I think we should move on the motion.
Okay, but with it being a full class for the entire, because Rob is suggesting that we
Right. Well,
make a decision about
you
whether.
actually made a good point about the town benefits. Some town could benefit more if we did look at the whole, opening the whole thing. And I think that was Stacy's motion.
Right. What do you think?
I'm at the point where I'm only worried about the full upgrade as a dollar amount.
Me too.
I am very concerned about that. I love the 3-4. I'm actually in support of at least moving forward with further things with that.
I mean, I think if you have the million.
It could,
or more.
I don't think it'll cost that much, but if we hire it out, it'll be a large number. And if we take it on ourselves, it's going to take away everything that we've already put in motion for this upcoming season. And we don't have any money associated with this particular one right now. Me personally, I know this isn't the answer you'd want to hear. I'd love for Eric and I to, before the next meeting, go out there, do some numbers, put something semi-formal together, which we can easily do. Can we get through all the way through right now? Is it plowed all the way through?
It's not plowed beyond my driveway, but it has been driven
Driven
by
on?
other.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, and the only reason I say that is because it's a big difference. It's a big difference in cost to do it, time commitment that we would have to honor. And we'd have to weigh the pros and cons of the benefits and the,
Well, that's what the hearing's for, so.
No, I know, more from, like, I'd love to have a little bit more, I feel like we owe it to everybody involved to have a little bit more info, because they've not propositioned us for the entire road.
No, they haven't, but I think we're looking beyond that, but I don't want it to look as if we're doing it for 5 families, then we have all these
Agreed.
other people, including yourself.
Right.
Right?
I'm concerned
That's
though,
why-
because tonight we're being asked to make a
Right.
motion on one or the other.
Right.
So that's where I'm a little like. you
I
guys
wanna
see
hear
I- Yeah,
what,
Would it be a motion on a 2-part, so that the town, if the town's gonna get involved and wants something that's gonna benefit them, that the first part would be at least to take care of these folks so they can get to the road safe, and the second part, as the town can afford it, that the rest of the road would be considered?
You could
Would that be
do that,
legal?
you could do that, you know, with the requirements for hearing notice and stuff, you want it to be as clean as possible. So my inclination would be to just, again, do one or the other, but, the other thing is that I thought Paul made a good point that, there seems to be broad support to do one or the other, for sure, so it's not a matter of doing further investigations so that no becomes an option again. I think to get clarity on and again, this is not a law point, so I'm just babbling at this point. To have the road crew and Eric get out there, take a look at it, and they'd be able to see some, more clarity with perhaps cost figures to do the whole road, and then they might be able to come back and report to the board at its next meeting or some future meeting, saying we should go this way or the other, and that's the recommendation. The board would then have more information from which to make this decision, tough decision.
can I ask a question though about the cost? So like, let's say we did what Stacy has said in her motion. And let's say we had the hearing. right? And let's say we said, okay, we're gonna do it. And we know it's gonna cost, $800,000 to do this. Well, we have to budget for that. And what if the town goes down that budget?
Yeah.
Like, what happens? Like, I don't understand then, like, is it contingent upon getting funding for it? Is that how that works?
Well, that's my only, I don't wanna say argument, it's my only kind of proposal to you guys. Would you be willing to hold 2 weeks, knowing that we're actively working towards?
I would.
You know what I mean? It's just in good faith of everybody, because if we're, 800's a big number, no big deal. But, I'm thinking for them 50 to 75 type of number.
For their section?
For their section.
Yeah.
But if we're talking another 75 to 100 for the remaining portion, that's a big difference and time commitment that the road crew doesn't have. So I am in support of moving forward with one of those. But I could not honestly tell you which one tonight. I would honestly abstain for right now, is where I'm at.
Okay.
Should take the time if you can.
Yeah, and Eric and I'd be happy to.
definitely.
It's definitely, it's easy to do. We could put some pretty rough numbers together that would at least give us as board members context. And then that work is already done moving forward, because that's a number that we would have to have regardless. But I think for us, Zara, Stacy, even Larry, I'm familiar with what it would take. These guys, they don't have a lot of context around it. So I think having that actual number might benefit everybody.
And I would make a motion to
Absolutely.
table the motion until the next meeting.
Are you guys
does that
okay with
give
that?
you
Like, does that-
Not really. No, I would want.
I'd second.
3/4 to be slowed down because of the 0.4.
It's 2 weeks. It's just 2 weeks.
Well, how about this? How about, I don't see any reason why you can't do two, consistent with your idea. Like, we think about the 0.34 and we think about the 0.4, but we don't have to do both to do one. It's a no-brainer that we should agree to 0.34, an absolute no-brainer, especially if one person saying, one way or another, we can figure out a way, so 2/10 of it is me, and only 0.14 of it is you. It's a no-brainer, so we should move ahead with it, if only to sort of say, okay, my bad, we get it now, we're gonna do the 0.34, and then it's not hard to say at the same time, and we're also gonna consider maybe going, because the added benefit, which everybody has recognized, and I agree with, the additional 0.4, but I don't want the first one to die because the second one.
Well, we've all agreed openly that we would be in favor of moving forward. For me, it's more of providing the context of what would benefit as a better option, one or the other. It's not a matter of yes or no. It's which one of those would be better, number one, as a selling point to the town, who's ultimately gonna have to incur these costs, the road crew who's gonna have to do this work, and at the end of the day, what makes the most sense in general? Safety, dollars, put it on a scale. So everybody here was in support of the 0.34. I would just table it the 2 weeks. No one's digging any dirt next week. I think we can all agree. We're months away.
I may not be understanding, so I'll.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
this would all, no matter what, the 2 week delay, if this all went through, we would have it probably agreed upon before the bucket could be in the
But you
dirt.
can't move anything until the.
For sure, like that, this would, one way or the other, yeah.
Well, I mean, and I just wanna add too, that we've already passed our budget for
Yeah,
this whole year,
right.
so there isn't money for this year.
Right.
And this would have to be something that is,
FY 27.
yeah, or you could ask for it at town meeting.
Yeah.
You could.
Good.
You could say we want, and I don't know, yeah, we would by then have at least a rough estimate.
Yeah, next week, Eric and I would start with before the next board meeting, and I'd be happy to share those costs and estimates. Again, they'd be, rough. There's 3 feet of snow out there, so
That'd be
Yeah.
great. That would be great.
And I just wanna, I also, can I just make a comment, to Mike's comment that this is a no-brainer? I just wanna clarify that I don't think this is a no-brainer. I understand that there are 5 families, but I also really wanna be mindful of the fact that there are other class 4 roads with other families on them, who, also have to maintain their roads, also have to sand their roads, also have floods, damaging their roads. There are a lot of, and I will bring up the private driveways again, there are a lot of private driveways that have many houses. I've got 5 houses on my driveway. And it's just a known fact that we are responsible for the cost of, and we're also taxpayers, right? And I get that. When I bought my property, I knew that I had to pay for the maintenance of my driveway, just like anyone on a class 4 understands. Well, and you were new, you didn't know, I mean, you lived in this, I don't know where you came from, but I get that you wouldn't necessarily.
I know, and you brought up in 22 about private driveways, and I get it, but you can pave your driveway and put a toll booth up if you wanted and charge people. I mean, we can't do that. We're not supposed to touch it, you know, I mean, in order to do anything, there's a difference there. You own your driveway. We don't own the road.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taxpayers, but
I have.
so that is a little apples to oranges.
Yeah, my driveway's
Try not
on
to
3 years
keep
long.
them.
I'm not asking for this.
Yeah, right, I know, you've got a long driveway.
Got the card, fix it up, and it's beautiful. And if I'd been able to get him to do that on the road and get Vic off of it so that he's not crushing and making.
Yeah, just so you know, Vic doesn't have anything to do with the town.
But you know
so
what?
Hopefully nothing has
But
happened.
unfortunately, Liz, he has a lot to do with it, because our road is worse because of him.
Okay,
And the town can't forget that we've had a 3-year delay because of Vic. So I know we don't want to spend time with history, but we can't ignore the horrible history here.
okay,
The families who have a half-mile H-Club road, they didn't suffer what we've suffered the last 3 years, and nor were they ignored for 3 years.
okay, so we are going to.
Table that.
Okay, we are going to put this back on the agenda for next, it's the,
It's already set.
I think.
It's our second one.
No, we're not doing Stacy's motion.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Carol, just, and for the group and clarity,
The first and third,
the motion
hold on,
motion I made is a motion to initiate proceedings to reclassify the 0.82 miles of class 4 highway on South Bear Swamp Road, also known as Town Road 14, pursuant to 19 VSA section 708. And that motion has been, or Larry has moved to continue the discussion of that motion until the next meeting.
February 3rd.
So we still need someone to second, we still need to vote on Larry's motion to continue discussion on my motion.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
Zara seconded Larry's motion to put it off until the 3rd.
At which point Eric and I will present budget numbers for both sections.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I have to get going. I have another.
Yeah, so I guess that ends the discussion of this. And we will see you guys, I don't think I have your email, John. I don't, because normally I include people in the, you know, in the minute when I send out the agenda. So what is your email?
Yeah, I can get that to you. It's J Lund, WND.
LUND? Yeah,
Services at Gmail.
okay. Was that person also from the road?
No, he's
Yeah.
on the fire department.
He's on the fire department. Okay, I don't know him. Okay, so just you two from the road, right? Okay. Okay, so I don't know the time that it will be, but it's probably around the 5:30-ish time frame, like it was today, 5:30, 5:45, depending on what we have already. I already have some things on the
Thank you
agenda.
very much. Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thanks for coming, Ron. So actually this, I think, is there any other matter that comes before the board? Because we finished everything else on the agenda. Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Amen.
Zara moves to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second. Nope.
Oh, let's give Stacy the second. We haven't
Oh.
done that yet today. Okay, so we'll see you all on we have a week off. Woohoo! On the 3rd. Okay.